Okay, so analysis. How did I go about analyzing this bad boy? Um, the poster really doesn't do any justice to the analysis that took place. So I recorded all of the interviews on a Sony handheld device, and then I transcribed them. I partially did that on my own and partially used some Temi AI software. And after I transcribed them, I used a MaxQDA. It's a software, a program for researchers where we code interviews. And what that essentially is you highlight passages of text and say what that's about for a code for yourself to look back to later. And then later on, after you've coded all the interviews, you pull up all of that and you find themes. And from those themes, you answer questions. So, just kind of what I'm talking about in the types of farms and in that part of analysis is we started with types of farms. So I started looking at the farmers markets and the types of farms that were represented at the local farmers markets. And I wanted to find one of each, basically, one of each type of farm that does this or does that. And so all of these 14 different farms or 17 farmers really represent all of those different farming methods that I'm seeing at local producer only markets. That's so that I could have a representative sample of the local farming community. Whether or not, because these are such in-depth interviews and they are such like real samples of people's lives, I can't say that it is, like I didn't do a survey and make sure that everything lines up like that. Anyway, so those are the types of farms that I went to. Many times these farms were mixed methods, meaning that one type of farm would be both an educational site and an aquaponics farm or something along those lines. Farming methods also, this kind of I originally knew that I was looking for these types of farming methods, but then there was a lot more that came out in the analysis. There's a lot of farming methods that I did not know about until I interviewed the farmers themselves, such as regenerative grazing, native restoration, permaculture. Natural growing methods is another way of saying organic, but they're not certified in organic as according to the USDA. Hugelkultur is a German form of building kind of like a garden mound. They dig in and they put logs into the mound and then they layer it with all of these different layers that are beneficial for the plants. So when they plant the garden, it's drought resistant, it's self-fed, things like that. They're fascinating. If you could see a hugelkultur mound, Google it. Like, they're really cool looking. Contouring land so that there's better runoff in the water. Small stewardship, which is land ownership on a small scale. Layering beds, free range animals, and grass fed. Regenerative grazing, just FYI, is when you rotate your animals so that your land can regenerate. Native restoration is planting native plants and animals. I probably should have gone over this in order, but I like to kind of jazz things up, I guess. Permaculture is mimicking natural growing methods. I know natural growing methods is next, and that's where we started. Mimicking natural growing methods is in mimicking nature. If a permaculture garden is built correctly, then after, I think it's 7 years or something like that, you have to destroy it to take it out. It's something that self-replenishes. And then moving on to the produce or goods that I found available, everything is represented in these farmers markets except for grain, if you're kind of looking at this and thinking about what you're getting for groceries. Paper and grain are not really there. There is a grain distributor that I saw at a conference called Barton Spring Mills. That's a Texas grain distributor. I did not interview them. They're not involved in my research, but there is somebody in Texas who's doing grain. And that's just to kind of point out that there are all of these things that are available through the local food system. These are things that you commonly would go to the grocery store to get. Many times, if the farmer's market is a really good producer only, they will have all of these different items available because they're trying to think of like a one-stop shop that they can create. And then the final thing with analysis is kind of like the real analysis, which is themes of success, right? So like, what makes area farmers successful? The more important question is what do they want out of farming, right? Like, why? What is success to you? Because I can't sit here and from the outside say, oh, well, this guy's successful and this guy's not, because I don't know what their goals are in life. That's kind of a more interesting, on an abstract level, I guess, thing to think about is why people are doing this farming on a local level. Overall quality of life, or those types of answers, were the most abundant. Many times the answers that follow that were given as a part of a quality of life. So environmentally improving the land was a part of like making your life better, or being your own boss. That's independence was a big one. The themes of success, the quality of life, is something that on a firsthand level I have definitely witnessed this change that happens. I don't know if it's because you're actually witnessing the creation of food on a firsthand level. I'm thankful every day. I'm thankful when I'm collecting eggs from our ducks. I'm thankful when I'm harvesting food. That thankfulness really gives you kind of like more to appreciate, in my opinion. This is opinion, not fact. Anyway, but those themes of success, that's a fact from the research. So the farmers overall, we're looking for a better quality of life through farming. Also not included on the poster was why people are buying from local food farmers, and kind of the same list of reasons were given. So there's a kind of transference of values that's happening at these farmers markets that's over and above just buying food, just a nourishment. Although the food itself was talked about as, a better alternative. Anyway, so that's the analysis.